Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining our online seminar today. My name is Derek, and I'll be presenting, and we have a second team member here, Emily, who will be answering your questions through a chat system. We'll show you how that chat system works here in just a couple of minutes. Today we have a special presentation. It's a bit of a departure of what we usually do. We'll be using the winner of our outdoor kitchen design contest as the inspiration for today's training. Custom fireplace. So what we're going to do is first shout out to Anna for winning. She had the winning design. Our Facebook fans are the judges, and she received the most votes. So she'll receive a free one-on-one hour of training with a certified chief trainer, and she'll also get a free Chief Architect water bottle and t-shirt sent out to her. So again, congrats on that. Want to cover a few things before we get started here. Number one is today we're going to be designing everything in Home Designer Professional. That's our top-end product. I'm just going to change my slide here. And setting up your audio, if you're having trouble hearing me through this audio connection, you have two options. You can use either the telephone that you see on your screen or your computer's mic and speakers. So if you are having trouble hearing, you can use the telephone. When you hit that radio button, you'll get a phone number listed at the bottom and an access code. Just bear in mind that there can be long-distance charges charged on that. For asking questions, I had mentioned you can ask questions. All of your microphones are muted as a part of this. We have a large number of people in the meeting today. So all the questions go through a chat system, and this screen shows you what that chat menu will look like on your screen. So you simply type your question here at the bottom and hit the send button. And it may take a few minutes for us to get back to you, so be patient. We'll have a number of questions to get through, but we will get to all of the questions. Now, along the lines of that, I'm just going to bring over our website quickly. If you've sent a question in, you may get a response back that references a help database article. If that's the case, you can go to our Home Designer website, so it's homedesignersoftware.com, and hover over the support drop-down. And the first option here is the help database. This is, by the way, a great way to get help outside of our webinars and training videos as well. You can go in here and just type in a search term, let's say fireplace, and hit the search button. So you'll get various articles and how-tos on how to do a fireplace. You may get reference to a database article number. So this right here is article number 744. If you simply type that into this field, 744, you'll get that help database article. A couple other quick areas on the website for help. Under the User Center, we have our training videos that are searchable, so you can take advantage of those. And then, of course, we have our Home Talk user forum. That's a great resource as well. Okay. All right, so moving on. I mentioned we're using our Home Designer Professional today, so not all the features are available in the other products. Home Designer Professional is the top of our product line in the consumer end. So if you see a feature that I'm using here, I'll try and make note of features that are only in the Home Designer Pro so that you have an idea of what might be missing in the lower-end versions. So our agenda for today, we're going to go through a brief program overview just to show you where the tool buttons are and how that interface works. We'll work on defining the space, so creating walls and using dimensions to precisely create the area that we're looking for. And we will get into using floor heights. You'll see in Anna's design here down at the bottom that we have some what looks like steps, but essentially they're different platform heights. So I'm going to show you how to create that condition in a floor plan using our software. We're going to get into using walls to create a fireplace or fireplace area or surround. And we'll show you how our pass-through tool works and the reason for using that. We're going to touch on architectural blocks and how that can really increase efficiency of designing. We'll show you how wall openings work or doorways work in the software. And of course, adding some final touches of the design to make it look lived in and realistic, as Anna's done a good job with here. So once again, thanks and congratulations to Anna, and we'll go ahead and get started with our presentation here. Okay, so here's our Home Designer Pro, and this is our standard interface that you'll see right out of the box. I'll draw your attention up top to the second row of toolbars. This is really where you're doing your primary accessing of the tools. We have some drop downs up top here that contain all the options, but really for the most part, over 90% of what's available in those drop downs are in these quickly and visual tool buttons that are available. So this one obviously looks like a wall. If you click on it, there's a drop down for all the different wall options. And that idea carries all the way across here. Okay, and really that's all you need to know about the interface, pretty straightforward. So what we're going to do is get started with defining our area. So I'm going to go up and just click on our wall tool for exterior walls. I'm going to draw a simple box here. So I'll pull it out and I'll see a temporary dimension that comes up. I don't need to be exact here. I'm just going to be rough with our dimensioning. We're going to show you how to get that precise down the road. So I'm just pulling this over and drawing to close up that box. And what we're going to do now is I've hit the Select Objects button. This button right here is for Select Objects. It allows you to click on and select various items in your plan. A shortcut to that is just hitting the space bar. So instead of having to mouse up here every time and click Select Objects, I simply just hit the space bar on my keyboard. So when we click on a given wall, we'll get a temporary dimension that displays across here. So it's real handy to be able to dimension our project quickly. So we can click on this wall and then select that dimension and enter a value to get a precise measurement. So for this case, let's just call it 35 foot 4 inches. We do need to use the foot marker for feet. We do not need to use the inch marker for inches. It just assumes that. So when we've entered that value in, we hit the return or enter key, and now that dimension is displaying 35 foot 4, exactly what I was looking for. And what it did is it moved this wall so that it created that distance we were looking for. So again, I want to move this wall up top so I can click on the wall, click on this dimension, and I want this one to say 44 foot 6 inches. I hit enter. That wall just adjusted down to get my value exact. Okay, so let's get some interior walls put into place. So we'll go back up to our wall options and we'll select Interior Wall tool. And this is going to be a simple floor plan. We're really only kind of creating 2 spaces here for the purposes of our fireplace. And we don't need to draw the whole plan out. That's a good point to make. You can just draw the rooms that you're interested in representing in the software. So I have these interior walls in place, and I'm going to select on this one. And I'm going to dimension that to a value. Let's call that 29 foot 9, hit enter, and I'm going to select this one and hit this dimension, let's call it 15 foot 8. So I'm just putting in some round numbers there. Okay, and the next thing we want to do is I want to bring up a 3D view so you all can see what we've done. Thus far I've been designing just in our 2-dimensional view. If we go up to our tool buttons, we have an option here with this camera. And I'm going to bring up a dollhouse view. So this brings up a 3-dimensional view that does not show the ceiling, and it's a real good way to get an idea or an overview of what this floor plan is looking like. I'm navigating using this mouse orbit camera, so we can use some different tools for adjusting our view. My favorite one is this mouse orbit camera. I just leave that one on always, because with that one, I can left-click with my mouse and rotate back and forth. I can rotate up and down. I can use my scroll wheel to scroll in or scroll out. And I can also push on the scroll wheel and pan back and forth or up and down. So really that's a control for all of the different camera movements in one. Now, I'm going to just adjust this up a little bit. Something I really like to do is I like to design and look at what I'm doing simultaneously. And the way that we can do that is we can go up to our window option and we can tile views in various ways. I like to tile it vertically, and there's a shortcut for that, just hitting Shift F6. So during the rest of the presentation, if you see me splitting the screen, I'm simply doing a keyboard command for that. So let's go ahead and see what happens when we do that, tile vertically. So what that does is it lets me precisely make moves over here in a plan view, but it also lets me see in 3D what's happening to my plan to help aid the design. Now we always need to activate the window that we want to work in. You'll notice that this window bar is grayed out a bit. That means that this is the active window. That's where I can rotate around. So I'd need to click over here if I wanted to make moves in this window. So very quick to do that. So what I'll do is I'm just going to center this and zoom in a little bit so we can see things better. And what I'd like to do is there's a great feature in the program that allows you to reveal a little bit better when we're dealing with a closed space what's happening inside. So we have these exterior walls in this 3D view, and I'd like to be able to see through that so I can see what I'm doing inside instead of having to look down into it like this. I'd like to look in straight ahead. So an easy way to do that is to activate our 2D plan view, and I want to make this section of my wall invisible and this section of my wall invisible. So I'm going to break that wall into sections. Activate my break wall tool here, and I'm going to click in this junction and click in this junction. So now when I select that wall, it's only selecting that section of the wall. And I'm going to hold the Control key down and multiple select the other wall. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom here, my additional edit buttons, and I click to open those two walls. And in my General tab here, under Options, I can just tell the program those are invisible. So I'll go ahead and create invisible walls, and I'll click OK. So now it's taken out those walls, and I have a real nice view straight into my plan. Okay, so let's continue on with our design here. What I'd like to do is get our fireplace walls put together, and let's have a quick look at what Anna's plan looked like here, just to refresh our memory. So we have what looks like a double-sided fireplace right here, and we kind of have two dividing rooms. So I want to create this wall section here that's going to actually contain the fireplace. And then after that, we need to create these floor platforms to get that condition. So let's go ahead and get that done. So in our view on this side, this is where I'm going to be making these edits. I just click on it to activate the window, and I'm going to get into our interior wall. And I'm going to draw one wall here. And I'm going to draw another wall here and another wall up here. So essentially I'm just creating an area for my fireplace. And now that I've put them in, I want to really dimension them precisely. So instead of using these temporary dimensions that come up, you'll notice if I zoom in here, my temporary dimensions dimensioning to the inside of this wall and to the outside of this wall. Let's say for the purposes of this presentation, we'd really like to dimension interior to interior, so sheetrock to sheetrock. Maybe it's an existing remodel that we're doing. So the way that we do that is get into our dimension tools. And we have a handy dimension tool called Interior Dimensions. And this is great because we don't have to be very precise on how we locate dimensions. So with that activated, I could simply just draw a dimension line through all these areas. Doesn't matter where I go, just as long as I'm spanning the area I want to dimension, and the tool will automatically pick up the interior dimensions. Okay? I'm going to do a different dimension because this dimension from here to here, I want that to be overall from the outside of the wall to the outside of this wall. So I'm going to use an end-to-end dimension to do that. So that way I can kind of snap to the outside of this wall, pull it over, and it snaps to the inside of that wall. So I've got the dimension I'm looking for there. And once these dimensions are put down, we can use them just like we did the temporary dimensions. So I can click on this wall and then click on this dimension, and let's call it 9 feet even, and hit enter. So it's moved that wall out to get my 9 feet. Over here, I'm going to click on this wall here, and we want to change that. Let's call it 12 foot 4. I'll hit enter. So again, it's moved that wall to get that dimension. And I'll click on this dimension because I need to get this one right. Click on it, and let's say 2 foot 1. Okay. So we're completely and precisely dimensioned what we're looking for the walls, those existing walls, to contain my fireplace. And you have a couple options. These dimensions, you can certainly move them if you'd like to. This dimension, if you want it to be in a given place. Or if you just don't need them anymore, you can click on it and hit the delete key, and it'll delete those dimensions. I like to keep my workspace clean, so I went ahead and deleted those dimensions. Now the next thing we want to look at is creating the floor platform that we see in Honest Design. So the way that we do that is we need to define some areas in this big room here. And the best way to do that is to use our invisible wall tool. That's right on our list here of our wall types. So I'm going to activate invisible wall, and I'm going to get to this junction. I'm simply going to pull an invisible wall straight out here, and I'm going to drag another invisible wall down this way. And what this is doing is it's kind of defining the area that I would like to do to create our varying floor heights. And we'll show you exactly what I mean by that if you're confused. Okay, so let's refer quickly to Anna's design. So you'll notice that I've kind of drawn the invisible walls to mimic the shape of what we have right here. Okay. And what I'll do is dimension those just to get a precise idea, and we'll go ahead and stick with our quick temporary dimensions. I'm going to click on that, and let's clean it up to 7 foot, let's call it 2 inches. Okay. And then I'd like to click on this one and dimension, we'll zoom in a little bit here. I want to dimension this to, let's call it 1 foot 4. And I'm going to hit enter. And I want to do that for all of these so we have a nice symmetrical area. So I'll click on this one, make that 1 foot 4, 16 inches. And finally here, we'll just call that 16 inches. Okay, so I'll zoom out a little bit. So we see our invisible walls are put in here and very precisely just how I want. And you'll notice in my 3D view over here, really nothing's happened. So what we need to do is tell the software that in this area, you'll notice when I click in here, I'm getting a gray area because the program with these invisible walls is defining this as a room. And I could double click in this space, and it brings up the specification dialog box, and it allows us to go into the structure tab and change the elevation of the floor. So I'm going to highlight that and put it at a minus 15 inches. And when I click OK, we'll notice over here that my floor is now 15 inches below this floor. Okay. Now the next thing I want to do is pick up this area right in here. So I'm going to click on the inside to highlight that room, and we'll click to open it. And we'll change the floor height of that to minus 7.5. Okay. So now we have that floor step that we were looking for. I'm going to click in here and just zoom in a little bit so you can see that better. Okay. Now what we'll want to do now that we have really our entire space set up, the floor set up, and our interior partition set, we need to add some doorways to get in and out of this room, and then we'll start to work on our fireplace design specifically. So I'll draw your attention to our plan on this side. So I like to make an opening here and an opening here that goes into my other rooms. So to do so, I'm going to go up to our door options and choose doorway. And I'll click in a doorway right here. And now that it's placed, I'll double click on it and I'm going to make some changes to the doorway. I'm going to highlight it and change its width to 6 feet. And we can see a preview of the changes we're doing to the doorway right over here to the right, by the way. Yeah, I'm going to dress up the doorway. I'll put an arch in here. We have lots of different arch options. I'm going to choose a broken arch, and I'm going to give it a value of, let's call it 12 inches. So again, we see what that looks like. That looks good to me, so I'll just go ahead and click OK. And again, you'll notice in our view, we've got that updated on that side. I'll probably adjust the location of that over a little bit just to position it where I'd like it to be. And let's adjust our 3D view and take a look on this side. So I'd like to add in a doorway on this as well. So the same tool, activate that window and get my doorway and drop that right in here. I'm going to double click on it and we're going to change it. Let's call that, let's put that at 4'6". And let's also add an arch so it matches. We'll call it a broken arch. And we'll put that at 8 inches. That looks pretty good. So I'll click OK. I'll adjust its position slightly here. Now you'll notice here that I've got a step up from my room. And in this case, I'd like this room to match the floor height of this area. And on this side, it's already matching the proper floor height, so I don't need to change that. So if you recall, the easiest way to change our floor height is just select the room. So I can even do it in this 3D view. I just double click in that area. And we'll go in. If you recall, my floor height for the bottom was -15. And I'll just click OK, and it heals that automatically. Okay. All right. I'm going to open up our library. Need to start adding some architectural objects out of that. So up on our top row of toolbars, we have this icon that looks like a stack of books. I'll click on it. That's going to open up our library browser over on the right-hand side. And our library is organized with the core content. There's bonus catalogs, manufacturer catalogs, and then we have a user catalog as well, so you can organize your own items in here. So what I've done is, and I recommend if you use a software fairly often to do this as well, is I've organized under Custom Fireplace all the items and all the things that I want to use for my plan here. So you can pull items that exist elsewhere because the software, this particular one, has over 10,000 items in it. There's a heck of a lot of content, so the things that you like to use and think look good, you can put in this user catalog and create a file structure that fits your needs. Before we go any further in the library, I'm going to refer you back to our website. A great value is getting into our user center and going to content downloads. And in here, we have all kinds of manufacturer-specific content that you can add into the library of the software. So this month's featured is Trex deck material. We have countertop surfaces and tiles. So if we expand that, Caesar stone, Corian, doll tile, and so on. Okay. So take advantage of that. That's a great thing to do to kind of bolster your library. Okay, I'm going to bring this back over here. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our library. So for the most part, we're going to be operating or using items out of my custom Fireplace. And it's the same exact procedure of how you would use items out of the core catalogs and the manufacturer catalogs and so on. So there would be no difference for all intents and purposes. If you do want to create your own, simply go to the user catalog, right-click on it, go to New, Folder, and just name a folder or whatever you'd like it to be. Okay? Okay, so for our fireplace, I've created an actual double-sided fireplace myself. So I click on the object, I see the 2D representation of it, and I see the 3D representation down here. So I've gone through some steps to create this neat little see-through custom fireplace. So with that selected, I'm just going to activate this 2D window and click into my fireplace. I'm going to add that over here to the side. And once it's in my plan, it's sometimes a good idea when you're dealing with adding something into a restricted space like this, that you add it in a larger area outside of where you're looking to do it, and then simply select it and pull it into where you'd like it to be. Now, I don't need to be too careful about where I'm putting this. I'm just dropping it in there because I'm going to use our center tools to get it precisely located. And the way we do that is with the item selected, I go to this center object tool down at the bottom. It looks like two arrows pointing to each other. So I'm going to center it in this room going this way, and with it selected again, I'm going to center it in this room, scroll in a little bit, this way. So it's centered both that way and up and down. Okay. Now we can see our fireplace in our 3D view here, and let's adjust our 3D view a little bit. You'll notice we have a problem here. We don't see our fireplace, and the reason that we don't see it is that our sheetrock is in the way there. So we need to make a cutout of that wall so that it will reveal the fireplace, and so you can see through the fireplace. And the way that we do that is using a new tool in Home Designer Pro 2012. It's called our pass-through tool. So let's go up top here, and the pass-through tool is located under Windows, the bottom of list, pass-through. And I'm just going to click that right into this wall. And essentially what it's done here is it's just put a framed opening with the casing on there. So we'll need to make some adjustments to this window opening. So with it placed, I'm going to double click on it and make some of those adjustments in this view here. So the first thing I want to do is adjust the width of it. We're going to make that 45.5 wide. And we're going to adjust the height of it. We'll call that 21 inches. Okay. Now, some of the other things that we would probably do here is, because it's a pass-through and you don't really need it to be framed, we would remove the casing and the sill and the lintel. In fact, let's go in here for the exterior and do not use sill for exterior, and do not use a sill for the interior. And I'm going to remove the casing in just a minute. Okay. So we have the basic shape of what we're looking for, and I'm going to click on it, and be a good idea to center that at this point because I know this object is centered. So with that selected, I'll click Center Objects, and I'll come up here and just click to center it. And in the 3D view, I'm going to pull that down so it's located right in front of our fireplace. So I have it positioned where I want it to be, and now we can see our nice cozy fireplace through the wall. I'm going to double click and open that up now, and I want to remove the casing around it. So we go to our casing tab, and we want to suppress the interior and exterior casing. So it's just not going to supply that for this given window or pass-through. So we'll click OK. So our casing disappears, and we see right through there. Now I'm going to adjust my view a little bit. We can't really see all the way through our fireplace because if we rotate around, we still have our wall on the other side. A very easy way to solve that is to use our replication tools. So I'm clicking over here in our 2D view to select that nice opening we just created. And instead of going through the work of doing all those adjustments, I'm going to go down to the bottom and click on Copy. And then I'm going to click on this Reflect About tool. And with that activated, I can come up here and get the center of this room, click one more time, and it's copied that opening, reflected it about the center of this area, and added it right over here. So it made it an identical copy of what I've created, and it's made a mirror image of it on the other side. And now as in our 3D view, of course, we see our fireplace cleared to the other side. And if we rotate around, we can actually see right through the entire fireplace. So what we want to do now is add some furniture into this room. I'd like to make this look a little more lived in. So I'm going to go into my library of objects over here, and I'm going to look for our fireplace furniture. Let's see if I can find it. Fireplace seating area. So I've put together some architectural blocks, and I'm going to show you what that means here in just a second. So I've got this nice little seat and end table. So with a single click from the library, I'm going to drop it down in here, and I'm going to adjust it into place, and that looks pretty good. So what this has enabled me to do is to put together a couch and an end table and a little accessory item, group it together and add it to the library. And it just, if you've created nice kind of collections, so to speak, you can group them together and then add them to the library to save time and use them in future designs if you'd like to. So I'm going to show you how to create an architectural block like that, but what I need to do is add another item to our list so that we can add that into our block. So what we'll do is go up to our objects in our library, and I have this thin frame that I've taken out of our catalog. And let's go ahead and add that over here. I'll just drop it right in the middle of the room so you'll see it in my 3D view here. Not a very pretty picture at this point, but what I'm going to do is click on it and rotate it. So if you want to rotate an object in the software, you get this little triangle. You can grab that triangle and rotate it exactly how you'd like it. And now that it's rotated there, I'm going to grab it and we're going to bump it up against this wall here. And let's see, I think I'll move it down a little on my wall to make it look better. That looks pretty good. Now, if you want to put something different inside a frame, let's say you have a picture of some artwork, maybe you want to buy some artwork and see what it would look like in this particular place. You can go out to Google and search images. I went into our library and just searched art and found a neat picture that I liked. So I'm going to add that in and show you how that works. So this is the art that I found in our library, and I created it in our shortcut. So very simple. With that selected, and I'm going to activate my 3D window over here so you can see how it works. So with that image selected, I just come over here. You'll see my cursor is now a spray paint can. I could just click inside that frame, and it's automatically added that picture and scaled it properly into place. I'd like to maybe match my frame to this end table. So if you want to do that, very easily done. Up here we have an eyedropper tool. So I can click and activate my eyedropper. My cursor turns into an eyedropper. I'm going to pull up or kind of suck up the color that's on my end table. And I'm going to come over to my frame and click it onto there so that it matches those two materials. And I think that frame looks a little nicer like that as well. Okay. So we have actually three objects here. We have our living set that we put in here, and then we have this painting. So if we want to group those together, we can do that either in 3D view here, so I can click on this one, hold the control key, and click on that one. So now the program's added or kind of selected these two items together. And down at the bottom, we have this Make Architectural block. This is a feature that's only in Architectural, Home Designer Architectural and Pro, where we can click on this, and now the software recognizes these two items as one. And once we've done that, we can click this additional item here, add it to library. I'll go ahead and do that. So now we see our item over here in our library, the paintings included with our section, and I can go in here and name it. Right now it's untitled. We'll call it New Block. Oops, bad typing. Okay, so New Block, that's in there, and now we can pull it and organize it in our library wherever we'd like to. Okay, so that's how architectural blocks work. They're great to increase efficiency and really great to quickly kind of detail your plan so it looks like a lived-in space. All right. So on this side, I'd just like to add one more bit of furniture, so to speak, and I'm looking for a floor lamp. This is a neat floor lamp that Anna had found in our library. So I'm going to bring that over and drop it into place right next to the fireplace. Now the green that's on our globes here doesn't really fit very well with my color scheme that I have going. There's a neat tool that I wanted to show you how to change that. What I like to do is go up to what I like to call our rainbow tool. It's adjust material definition. I'm going to activate that. I'm going to go down and click on this color green that I don't like. So what that does is bring up a dialog box for defining that material. Right now it's an olive green, and I'm going to click on the material's color. And actually what I want to do is move this over so we can see what we're doing a little better. Sorry, I'm going to move that dialog box over. So I'm going to click on it, and we can choose a color from our color scale. We can define colors using red, green, RGB, and so on and so forth. But something that's really, really neat is we can drag this eyedropper and pull up colors from the scene or a website or anywhere. So I have this nice painting in here, and I'd like to use some of the accent colors of the painting in my design. So I'm locating the eyedropper on these it's a reddish kind of color. So I've sampled that, and now my sample color here is showing on my screen. And I can adjust it by dragging this, and I can adjust its lightness or darkness by dragging up and down here. So I'm going to go with that kind of nice deep red color and click OK. So it shows up in my material color here. I click OK again. And we don't need to show that, just telling you that you've created a new color. So now I've created a nice match in our globes for our lamp with the existing art in the room. So just a nice little additional touch. So what we're going to do now is get into the other side of our room. So let's adjust our 3D view here. I'm going to rotate that around a little bit. I think we're pretty much done with the furniture and the arrangement on this side. And we're going to get back into our library, and I have a Fireplace living set. And this is, again, something I've done using an architectural block. Just put together some nice objects that I like. I select on that. I'm going to drop it right into this room right here. So you can see that all has been put down into place. And I need to position that a little bit better, so I'll just select it. And I'm going to bump it over on this wall here. And we're going to bump it up on this wall over there. Okay. So pretty amazing, with a single click, I've transformed this from an empty room into really a nice looking living space. Okay. Now I probably want to move this lamp here a little bit closer. I just happen to notice in this 3D view that it's kind of far away from the wall, so I'll just move that up a little bit closer. And I have an area here that I'd like to add another lamp to. Instead of using that globe lamp, I found a pretty neat little photographer's lamp. So let's use that if I can find it. Here it is. So I'll select that, and we'll drop that right into place here. You can see it in my 3D view. I probably want to rotate it so that the light faces us a little bit, or faces us in this view. And perhaps I'll just adjust its position a little bit better. Okay. Okay, so we're moving along here on our fireplace design. Now, something I like to do is to add some detail. I'm going to bring over Anna's design one more time. And this is the room over here on Anna's design. And it looks like she's used, I think that's a stone type material. So I'd like to add that stone to our fireplace over here, or something thereabouts. I'm going to go with something a little bit different. And a way that we can do that because the program, if you just grab a stone out of our catalog over here and we click on a wall, it will tend to add to more walls than you're intending in this case, because I really just wanted to add it to these 3 walls. It will tend to want to add it to all the walls in a room. It's handy for what you do in most of the case, but if you need to paint an accent wall or you want to add a material to particular walls, we can do that by just selecting the walls and adding the material. So let's look at how we would do that. I'm going to click on our 2D plan, and I'm going to use the multiple select again by holding the control key down. I'm going to click on this wall, that wall, and this wall. So these are the 3 walls we want to change. I'm going to go over and click to open the object, and we're going to go into our Materials tab. So you can always open an object and change its materials by going into the Materials tab of its dialog box. And with that selected, we have an exterior wall surface and an interior wall surface. We want to change just our exterior wall surface. And we're going to click on Library Material. And we're going to go into my library that I've created. Here's our user catalog. Here's my custom fireplace. And here's the stone that I like. I'll click OK and click OK again. And there's our stone. Okay. So let's add some more detail to this plan. When we're looking through the rooms here, let's go ahead and I'm going to maximize our view a little bit. When we're looking through our rooms, we have these big vacant areas on either side. And it's nice when you're creating and selling a design or even creating your own, dealing with your own design, to get the full picture of how it's going to look, to have the furniture and the items in there as they would really appear. Just makes it look more realistic. So using those architectural blocks, let's go ahead and add those items in there. I'm going to hit the Shift and F6 key to get back my split view. And we're going to go into our catalog and we're going to pull out a living set. And I'm going to select it and drop it down into this room. Whoops, there we go. And I have the orientation correct. I don't need to rotate it. So I'm just going to pull it down, bump it onto that wall, and bump it over into that wall. And let me adjust our view so we can see a little bit better. So now you're kind of getting the idea of, wow, there's some living space here, and it really just kind of pulls the design together. Okay, we'll do the same for the other area here. Let's adjust our view over on this side. We'll have to add that in on here. So what I've done is created a dining area for that. So I'll click on the dining set. And once that's loaded, I'll select it and drop it into this room. And that happened to orient properly. I don't need to rotate it. So again, we'll bump that up into this wall. And we'll bump it into the other wall. Okay. So now we have our scene through that opening as well. Now Anna had a real creative way of kind of representing or splitting the room areas. I'm just going to bring that up here so we can see it. So Anna's design, it looks like she used a curtain, which is really artistic. I like that. Maybe perhaps part of the reason why she was successful in winning the contest, that this was kind of a curtain that pulls out of the way, it appears, and we have living space beyond that. I went down the path of just creating these kind of door openings as what would be the flow between the different rooms. Okay. So what we'll want to do is add in some lighting. We haven't done any lighting except for the 2 floor lamps. So to do that, very easy, we'll activate our 2D plan. And I'm going to close this view. We don't really need that. We'll maximize our 2D plan. To add in some lighting, just go to your electrical tools and select our light. And if we click in a ceiling plane, it's going to put our default light, which is a recessed can light, and that's what we're looking for, so that makes it nice and easy. And I'm just going to drop in some lights here. We won't be too particular about where they go. So I've placed 2 lights in here, and it's nice to use our replication tools. I can multiple select the 2, copy and paste in place if I'd like, and then just pull over that set. And then perhaps we'll do a copy and paste in place again. And we'll pull these lights down here and rotate them around. So we have some accent lights on our fireplace here. And if I wanted to, I can center that or, get much more precise with the location. In terms of connecting and making the electrical switches and so on, we have a switch tool here, so simply add a switch in. If you wanted a 3-way, maybe a switch over here, you can operate these lights from the 2 locations. And we'd need to connect the electrical, and you simply just rope our various objects together. And the last one to our switch here. The program's smart enough to detect the 3-way condition, so it'll supply a 3-way switch into your materials list on both ends. Okay. So the final thing we want to do here is revert back. We've created invisible walls on this side and this side, so let's multiple select and reverse that. We'll hold it, click to open it, go into our General tab and remove invisible. Click OK. So we've restored our walls, and what I want to do is bring up a new camera. We're going to bring up an interior camera. We've been working with this dollhouse view since we started. So I'm going to activate our full camera, and we're going to just drag a camera view kind of in this general direction. Okay, and like to close my library down so I get a little bit bigger scope. Now the program in these views, so of course you can see our recessed can lights here. Hopefully the view is coming through in this online presentation where you can see some of the details. But on this screen we have a few levels of quality that you can get to. So this is the most basic quick render view that you can provide with the software. We can control the lighting up top. There's a tool button for adjusting lights. So it lists all the light sources that are in the room, and you can turn them on and off so that you can see the various lighting scenarios. And we can do our various grades of rendering. We can do a final view, and then we can do a final view with shadows. So the final view will kind of clean up jagged edges. So if I click that, it's a quick render view. It's already finished. And all of our lines, like down here on our fireplace, there's anti-aliasing, and you kind of get some jagged edges and things. So the final view cleans that up. And then a final view with shadow, I'm not going to do that here in our presentation, but that looks at all the lighting in the room and from outside the room, and it casts shadows and such. So you really get a lifelike representation of what it would look like in the real world. So I've created some views here. I'm going to bring those over just so you can see. Let's see if I have a final view with shadows. I'm going to bring this over into our view. So this is an example of a final view with shadows, and you can see that the lighting up here in our room, there's a glass table here, and it kind of shows the lighting as it would go through that tinted glass. It shows shadows from our photos and so on. So you can run these final view shadows and really get a good, nice view of what the project would look like. Okay, so let's have one last look at Anna's pictures here. So this is the design that won our custom fireplace. And let's go ahead and bring up the views that we have done in our presentation today. Drop that up here. And we'll bring that one down here. So that pretty well wraps things up. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We had a great group today. We had 100 people, over 100 people signed up for the presentation. So thanks again to Anna for submitting that design. Great job. It was really fun to get into it and kind of throw in my own creative ideas to put this together. So it was a lot of fun for me as well. And just a couple of comments before we wrap up and we get all your rest of your questions answered. A few notes about Home Designer software. Our company is Chief Architect, and we've been creating this design software for about 20 years now. One of the first to get into the 3D modeling software. We're a professional software company, so we research and develop a very high-end software in the neighborhood of $2,600. And out of that research and development in the professional side, we take the same program code and we create this Home Designer software. So you're getting very high-end, sophisticated, easy-to-use software at really a consumer price. It ranges from $59 up to $495. We do a 30-day money-back guarantee on everything that we sell. We also have a free trial version of our Home Designer Pro available on the website. You've seen some of our training resources here. Obviously, today we did our online webinar. We have a whole bunch of these that we do, so check in with our website and our newsletter to get updates on the topics. We typically do them at least once a week. We have our online training videos that we talked about, the online help database that you might have received a help article number from today. And then we have our Home Talk user forum that's just a great resource, a great group of people sharing help and ideas. For those of you that are here that are kind of looking at us from a new customer point of view, if you need help choosing a product, we're here. We're a company that answers our phone and you talk to a person. So give us a call. We're happy to help you select a product. Or you can send an email to sales@chiefarchitect.com. So that pretty much wraps up my presentation. I'm going to sign off. We have Emily here who's going to answer the rest of your questions. And again, thanks everybody for attending. Had a great show up, so I had a lot of fun and hoped you all learned something as well. You have a great day. Thank you.